It was a cold autumn evening in New York City, and the wind moved sharply through the crowded streets of Manhattan. Ella pulled her thin coat tighter around her shoulders as she stepped out of the small coffee shop where she worked long hours every day. The bright lights of the city shimmered against the dark sky, and taxis rushed past like streams of yellow light. She was exhausted. It had been a busy shift, and her feet ached from standing since morning. Still, she preferred walking home whenever she could. It saved money, and it gave her time to think. As she passed near Central Park, something unusual caught her eye. A dark leather wallet lay on the sidewalk, half hidden under a pile of fallen leaves. At first, she almost walked past it. In a city this big, lost items were common. But something made her stop. She looked around. People hurried by, too busy with their own lives to notice. Ella bent down and picked it up. The wallet felt heavy. When she carefully opened it, her breath caught in her throat. Inside were several crisp $100 bills, more money than she earned in weeks. Her heart began to race. She quickly closed it and looked around again, suddenly feeling nervous. For a brief moment, a thought crossed her mind. Her rent was overdue. The landlord had already warned her twice. Her mother's medical bills back in Brooklyn were piling up. This money could solve so many problems. She swallowed hard. No, she whispered to herself. Her parents had raised her with strong values. Her late father used to say, integrity is worth more than gold. Taking even a single dollar would mean betraying that lesson. With trembling fingers, she reopened the wallet and searched for identification. Inside, she found a sleek business card and a driver's license. The name read, Daniel Carter. The address listed an upscale building in downtown Manhattan. Ella stared at the name for a long moment. Whoever he was probably worried sick. Losing that much money in New York City meant it would almost never be seen again. She closed the wallet firmly and slipped it into her bag for safekeeping. The temptation still lingered in her mind, but her decision was made. She would return it personally. It wasn't just about honesty, it was about who she wanted to be. As she continued walking home, the city lights seemed different somehow. She still didn't know who Daniel Carter was. She didn't know that this simple act would soon change her life in ways she could never imagine. But for now, all she knew was this: tomorrow, she would return the wallet, without taking a single cent. The next morning, Ella woke up earlier than usual. She barely slept the night before. The wallet rested safely inside her small handbag, placed on the chair beside her bed. Every time she looked at it, she felt both nervous and determined. After getting ready, she skipped breakfast, grabbed her coat, and headed toward the subway station in New York City. The address on the driver's license led her to a tall glass building in downtown Manhattan. As she stepped out of the subway, she stared up at the skyscraper. It was the kind of place she had only seen from a distance. Men in expensive suits and women in elegant dresses walked confidently through the revolving doors. For a moment, Ella felt out of place in her simple coat and worn shoes. She took a deep breath and walked inside. The lobby was luxurious, marble floors, golden lights, and a large reception desk in the center. Behind it sat a sharply dressed receptionist typing on a sleek computer. Ella approached nervously. "Excuse me," she said softly. "I'm here to see Daniel Carter." The receptionist paused and looked at her carefully. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but I found something that belongs to him." After a brief phone call upstairs, the receptionist nodded. "Please wait." Ella's heart pounded as she sat on a leather chair in the lobby. She began to wonder who Daniel Carter really was. The building alone suggested he wasn't an ordinary man. A few minutes later, the elevator doors opened. A tall man in a dark tailored suit stepped out. He looked confident, calm, and powerful, but there was also something thoughtful in his expression. His eyes scanned the lobby until they stopped on her. "I'm Daniel Carter," he said, walking toward her. His voice was steady but curious. "You were asking for me." Ella stood up quickly. "Yes, sir." She carefully took the wallet out of her bag and held it toward him. "I think you dropped this near Central Park last night." For a brief second, surprise flashed across his face. He took the wallet and opened it immediately. His expression changed to relief as he checked inside. The cash was untouched. Every card was still there. "You returned everything?" he asked, almost in disbelief. "Yes," Ella replied quietly. "It wasn't mine." Daniel looked at her more closely now, not just as someone who returned a lost item, but as a person of rare character. Do you have any idea how much money was inside? He asked. She nodded slightly. Enough to change someone's life. He smiled faintly. And yet you didn't take a single dollar. Ella shook her head. My father taught me better than that. There was a silence between them, different from the usual awkward silence. It felt meaningful. Daniel reached into the wallet and pulled out several bills. Please, let me reward you. At least accept this as a thank you. But Ella stepped back gently. I don't want a reward. I just wanted to return what was yours. For the first time in a long while, Daniel Carter was speechless. In a world where most people expected something in return, she expected nothing. Then, he said thoughtfully, may I at least buy you a cup of coffee to say thank you? Ella hesitated, unsure of what to say. But something about his sincerity felt genuine. Okay, she replied softly. Neither of them knew that this simple meeting in a marble lobby was the beginning of something neither wealth nor money could ever buy. Daniel suggested they visit a quiet cafe just a few blocks away from his office in downtown New York City. It wasn't a flashy place, just a cozy corner cafe with warm lighting and soft music playing in the background. Ella felt slightly more comfortable there than she had in the grand office lobby. They sat across from each other, two completely different worlds meeting at one small wooden table. I'm glad you agreed to coffee, Daniel said with a small smile. Most people don't refuse money so easily. Ella wrapped her hands around her cup. I didn't do it for praise. It just felt right. Daniel studied her quietly. He wasn't used to this. As the founder and CEO of a successful tech company originally based in San Francisco, he had spent years surrounded by investors, executives, and people who often saw him as an opportunity rather than a person. Since expanding his business operations to New York, his life had become even busier. Meetings, contracts, media appearances, his days were carefully scheduled down to the minute. But sitting there with Ella felt different. Peaceful. So, he asked gently, what do you do? I work at a coffee shop near Central Park, she replied. Just a regular job. There's nothing, just, about honest work, Daniel said sincerely. She looked surprised by his response. Most wealthy men she had seen on television seemed distant or arrogant. Daniel didn't fit that image. Yes, he wore an expensive suit, and yes, there was a quiet confidence in him, but there was also humility. As they talked, Ella shared small pieces of her life. She told him about growing up in Brooklyn, about losing her father years ago, and about helping her mother with medical expenses. She didn't complain, she simply stated facts, as if hardship was just another part of living. Daniel listened carefully, not interrupting. No one had spoken to him this honestly in a long time. You know, he said after a pause, when I realized my wallet was missing, I assumed it was gone forever. I even blamed myself for trusting this city too much. Ella smiled softly. New York isn't all bad. He chuckled. Clearly. Hours passed without them noticing. The conversation flowed easily, from childhood memories to dreams for the future. Ella admitted she once wanted to study art but had to quit college because of financial problems. Daniel spoke about building his company from a tiny rented apartment, coding late into the night with nothing but determination. For the first time in a long while, Daniel wasn't thinking about business. He was simply present. As they stood to leave, something had shifted between them. It wasn't dramatic or sudden, but it was real. Respect had formed first, then curiosity. I'd like to see you again, Daniel said carefully, not wanting to pressure her. Ella hesitated for only a second this time. I'd like that too. As they walked out of the cafe into the bustling streets of Manhattan, neither of them fully understood what was beginning. But one thing was clear, their meeting wasn't just about a returned wallet anymore. It was about discovering something rare, connection, built not on wealth, but on character. Over the next few weeks, Daniel and Ella began meeting more often. Their encounters were never forced or extravagant, just simple moments, a walk through Brooklyn Bridge at sunset, a quiet lunch in a small cafe, or conversations in a local bookstore. Daniel admired Ella's kindness and honesty, qualities so rare in his fast-paced world. Ella, in turn, discovered that behind his wealth and public image was a thoughtful, humble man who genuinely cared about people. Despite the stark differences in their lives, they found common ground in small things. Laughter over clumsy moments, shared stories about childhood, and quiet discussions about dreams and fears. Daniel would talk about the challenges of running a growing tech empire, but he never boasted. Ella shared her struggles growing up in Brooklyn, the weight of responsibilities, and her aspirations that had been paused by circumstance. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the skyline, they walked along the Brooklyn Bridge. The city lights reflected on the river, casting a golden glow over the water. Daniel stopped and looked at Ella, his usual confidence softened by vulnerability. "Ella," he began, his voice quiet but steady, "returning my wallet wasn't just an honest act. It changed my life. I realized something important: honesty, integrity, and you. You've shown me there's more to life than work and wealth." Ella's heart skipped a beat. She felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the autumn air. "Daniel," she whispered, unsure of what to say. He smiled gently and took her hand. "I care about you. More than I expected. You've brought something into my life that money could never buy." Ella felt tears prick her eyes, but they were tears of happiness. She realized that her honesty, her small act of returning a wallet, had led her to something far more valuable than money. It had led her to love. As they stood together, looking out over the river and the glowing skyline, they understood that this was the start of a journey neither wealth nor circumstance could dictate. It was built on trust, respect, and the quiet magic of a simple act done right. In that moment, both Daniel and Ella knew that they had found something extraordinary. Love beyond wealth, deeper than any fortune, and stronger than any obstacle life could throw at them.